From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.
At the Legislature today, the chairman of the two major committees in the Senate look at what House bills their committees will consider during the final week of the session next week. And we'll talk with Reverend Matthew Watts about his work in Reconnecting McDowell County and the city of Charleston on the Legislature today. And good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. It seems Pendleton County won't be getting a casino at a resort planned to be developed there, and the casinos that are already here won't be getting a break on their licensing fees for table games. That was made clear by the House Judiciary Chairman today. Delegate Tim Miley broke the news on a talk radio show this morning. The Senate passed Senate Bill 615 on Wednesday. Senate President Jeff Kessler introduced the measure to help the casino in Wheeling. The measure cut the annual license fee for table games from $2.5 million to $1.5 million for 1 year only. The bill was amended to give the state's 3 other casinos the same break. Miley had put the measures on the Judiciary Committee's agenda, but pulled them off today.
I have reservations, but I wanted to put them on the agenda to see what the reaction was, because obviously they passed the Senate. I want to give them their due here in the House as much as I can. But in light of the fact that there's an overwhelming opposition that has been voiced to me about the Senate Bill 615, then I'm going to pull it off the agenda, and it's on life support, as we say.
The death knell to the table games bill was first sounded yesterday when House Republicans held a news conference citing their dissatisfaction with this session. House Minority Leader Tim Armstead was clear.
We have legislation coming from the Senate that would give a tax break to casinos in our state. Again, the wrong priority. The wrong direction for our state, the wrong track for where we need to go in West Virginia.
It was clear that with 46 Republicans opposing Senate Bill 615, Miley knew enough Democrats would join them.
Well, as of now, they're going to be taken off. I don't believe they'll be put back on because I've gotten an overwhelming number of calls from other members, both on the committee and that aren't on the committee but in the House, who are extremely opposed to those bills. And so I'm not sure we want to take up bills that will have a very low likelihood of passing. So why waste the time and effort if they're not going to pass?
When news about the House's action on the casino bills reached the Senate, Ohio County Senator Rocky Fitzsimmons expressed his disappointment.
Well, that's disappointing news for our area. That particular piece of legislation was aimed at a problem. The table game operations at Wheeling Island Casino, they're losing approximately $3.5 million this year. And it's my understanding that if there's no relief on that license fee, that potentially won't renew that license. And so that's particularly important to my district. There are 105 jobs associated with that table games operations. And in addition to that, if they don't renew that license, that'll be a loss of $2.5 million to the senior program funding. So obviously, it is very disappointing. I would hope that they would reconsider that action, think about those jobs, think about that senior funding, and perhaps reconsider their action and put it on their agenda in the House of Delegates.
Miley said House members are skeptical that the Wheeling Casino is as bad off financially as it claims to be. Senate Bill 492 authorized a casino at a planned resort near Franklin on the border of Virginia, Fisher Mountain Resort in Pendleton County. Farmer Steve Conrad traveled to the Capitol last week to support the bill before the Senate Judiciary Committee and said that with dwindling economic opportunities in the county, this resort could create as many as 300 jobs and bring in more than $20 million in tax revenue for the state in its first year.
It seems like that everybody's leaving and nobody's coming, and we need some relief. If this gaming facility is approved, and there is broad support in Pendleton County for it because of the economic hardships that we've been on, it'll benefit the county commission, it'll benefit the school boards, it'll benefit the rescue squads, it'll benefit the fire departments, and we need some help.
But after passing the Senate on Wednesday, the bill appears to have no support in the House. But there's still 1 week left, and as the saying goes, No bill is ever dead until midnight on the last day of the session, next Saturday. As the Senate prepares for its final week of the regular session, the chairs of both major committees say an already busy schedule is about to get even more frenzied as the body considers the more than 150 bills approved across the rotunda in the House. As Ashton Mara reports, those two committees will see a bulk of those bills, including a major one, the state budget.
Monday marks the beginning of the last regular week of the first session of the 81st legislature. The houses are no longer considering legislation originating in their own chamber, which Senate Judiciary Chair Senator Corey Palumbo says makes for a hectic end to the 60 days.
Each chamber has 50 days to pass their own bills and then 10 days to pass everything else that the other chamber did. So, just by definition, the last 10 days are always busy and hectic trying to sort through the other chamber's bills.
Palumbo says his committee has already begun considering the dozens of House bills assigned for their consideration, including legislation that would make the failure to wear a seatbelt a primary offense.
We want to give everyone, consideration, and we're right now going through the process of looking through each and every bill that they sent over. There are certain ones that, sort of caught our attention immediately. The seatbelt bill, which we addressed yesterday in the Judiciary Committee. They sent a bill over to us and we sent a bill over to them dealing with how magistrates are paid. We're going to still need to try to sort out how we're going to deal with that issue as well.
Palumbo says of about 10 bills the House passed dealing with gun laws, his committee will take up a few, including one they've already passed dealing with interstate reciprocity. Senate Finance Committee Chair Senator Roman Prezioso says his committee will see fewer bills in the range of 20 to 25 next week, but that doesn't mean he and his staff will be doing any less work.
We've got to be very aware, very cognizant of what's going on in both houses to make sure that when we finish this budget of $4.1 billion, that it's balanced, that we have enough money to pay our bills and we don't overextend.
Prezioso says it's literally a minute-by-minute process, keeping track of the fiscal impact of each bill in both chambers, as well as financing the state's agencies and determining where he can make cuts, he says, with the least amount of damage. One bill in particular passed by the Senate to create a tax increment financing district, or a TIF, in Monongalia County will have a major impact on this and upcoming budgets.
One of the major economic impact bill of this session is the Monongalia County TIF, and for some reason that bill now is held up in the House Judiciary Committee, so we're watching very closely that particular bill, because that'll have some impact on future budgets and obviously the job situation in around West Virginia.
The bill passed unanimously in the Senate. At the end of the regular session comes the 7-day budget extension. It's decisions made during that week that affect agencies not just in Charleston, but across the state. But Prezioso says he often receives criticism outside of the Capitol for the extension.
I know I get a lot of comments from people that say, well, why don't you finish your work in 60 days? I think the complexity of bills now, complexity of issues that we deal with, are of such a magnitude that it takes us 60 days to decipher through the policy. And then once that ends and we get all the policy bills taken care of, we need an additional week to sit down and determine exactly what that budget's going to be. And ours is going to be a little bit different from the House. They have a certain idea of how they want to address the fiscal impact of a budget. We have maybe a little bit different idea.
Ultimately, he says there will only be subtle differences, especially in such a tough economic time for the state.
You're not going to see a whole lot of difference because this year the money is very tight. This is a very, very lean budget, probably the leanest budget that I've ever seen in the 25 years that I've been here. So I don't think it's going to take a lot of time. There may be one or two issues that we'll end up debating over, but other than that, it takes time to put the document together, to get it printed, to get it to every one of our members, and let them have time to review it, to go through line by line.
Prezioso says each senator not only wants to be informed on the total budget, but also wants to check how their special interests and concerns fared. The final policy bills will be put to a vote on April 13th, and on the 15th, 6 members of each chamber will be selected to focus on meeting their constitutional obligation of balancing the budget. For the Legislature Today, I'm Ashton Mara in the Senate.
In a moment, bringing hope to community development. First, here's a look at what's coming up in the Senate on Monday. There are no bills up for passage in the Senate on Monday. Among the bills on second reading, House Bill 2314, authorizing a family court judge to order the emergency custody of a child in the physical custody of a party to an action or proceeding before the family court, requiring the Department of Health and Human Resources to immediately respond and assist the family court judge in emergency placement of the child, and providing additional procedures when a child is ordered taken into emergency custody. House Bill 2361, to include persons who served honorably in the National Guard and Reserves as eligible veterans for preference in employment training and employment. House Bill 2463, repealing state laws that permit the sterilization of persons deemed to be mentally incompetent. House Bill 2729, allowing schools to voluntarily maintain and use epinephrine auto-injectors in cases of anaphylactic shock. House Bill 2940, to require all county superintendents of schools and members of county boards belonging to the same regional educational service agency to meet together to identify county-level services and functions that may be shared between or among the county boards. Results of the meetings are to be reported to the State Board of Education and the legislature. And House Bill 3086, Governor Tomlin's measure renaming the industrial home for youth as the Salem Correctional Center, transferring control of that center from the Division of Juvenile Services to the Division of Corrections, authorizing the Parkersburg Correctional Center and listing it and the Salem Correctional Center among the institutions managed by the Division of Corrections. Pastor Matthew J. Watts is the senior pastor of the Grace Bible Church of Charleston, where he served for over 17 years. Formerly employed by Union Carbide for 18 years, he left the corporate life in 1996 to pursue his ministry and community service projects. In January of 1997, he established the Hope Community Development Corporation with the mission of empowering the inner city through spiritual renewal, education, employment, and training and economic development. And Reverend Watts, welcome to the Legislature Today.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
Tell us a little bit more about the Hope Development Corporation and your work.
Well, Hope CDC is a nonprofit organization with the mission of comprehensive community development. And so we look at youth development, family development, education, employment and training, economic development, housing, health and wellness, a comprehensive approach to community development. Families live in communities, children in families and communities. If we can strengthen communities, we can create an enabling, ennobling environment for our children and families to thrive in. So that's our mission.
Biggest success story you can share with us?
I think of several. One would be the work we've done with juvenile offenders. We had a federal grant several years ago, one of 35, and we were ranked #1 in the United States of America in terms of our ability to effectively work with these young people, help them transition back to their communities. The second was that we were able to convince the legislature a couple of years ago to pass a bill, House Bill 2950, the Neighborhood Housing Economic Stabilization Bill, to appropriate some funding where vacant, abandoned houses could be purchased. Local men and women could be trained on an on-the-job training program to rehab these houses and to make them available for habitation. And so over the last 3 years, we've been able to purchase over 50 properties. We've rehabbed over 25, and we've done that with local men and women from the west side and east end of Charleston. And we're excited about it, and that project has actually received some national attention from the Christian Community Development Association in Chicago.
And that's an inner city project, and yet Hope Community Development Corporation is a partner in Reconnecting McDowell, the 5-year plan to bring McDowell County back. What is your role there?
My role there, my organization, Hope CDC, we were contracted by the American Federation of Teachers, Ms. Randy Weingartner, to provide them with technical assistance. You know, I'm from a rural community, Mount Hope, West Virginia. I understand rural communities. And we believe that the principles of comprehensive community development are applicable, whether urban or rural. Mm-hmm. And we believe that most communities in West Virginia are more alike than they are different. Because all the 3,143 counties across America, right, they receive federal funding. Therefore, they have to have a certain apparatus in place to draw those funds down. Public education in West Virginia is funded the same way in all 55 counties. And so there's a similarity across the topography and the terrain, whether urban or rural. And we believe that what we develop on the west side is a template that can actually be used in McDowell County. And some of the people with the American Federation of Teachers believe that also.
Mm-hmm. Are you having any success there?
Well, we've had great success in helping them develop the plan. Like I said, we took the template from the west side, we mapped the services, the businesses, the churches, the schools, all the social service organizations to show where they're geographically located. And then we put together an organizational plan in terms of how we thought those services could be networked. And so they're now looking at how they use that template to actually create an infrastructure in the McDowell County communities.
Moving on, you have appeared before the Senate Select Committee on Children in Poverty. Yes. What did you tell?
Well, basically what I shared with them was a comprehensive approach to addressing children and family poverty. Yeah. Everyone gets emotional when you start talking about child poverty. Children are poor because their parents are unemployed, underemployed, or unemployable. So a kid's socioeconomic condition is going to be directly related to their parents' employment status. So in the short term, if you're interested in moving kids out of poverty, you must focus on the parents, improving their education levels, their job skills, their competitiveness for employment, trying to strengthen that family. Mm-hmm. On the medium and long range term, you got to focus on keeping that child connected to school, excited about going to school every day, on time, prepared to learn, and applying themselves academically, reading on level, computing on level, and progression through the educational system. Over time, if that occurs, they'll lift themselves out of poverty by being prepared for post-secondary education, job training, college, etc. But you have to focus on the family. And we cannot move children out of poverty by merely transferring payments. The programs like the free to reduce lunch or free lunches, those things are important. And we need to provide children and families with the type of support. But the cycle of poverty is never broken merely by social service welfare programs. It requires strategic plan for education, workforce development, job training, and comprehensive community development.
What should the legislature do, in your opinion?
Well, what they should consider doing is looking at the west side of Charleston, the plan that we developed there. Let us serve as a pilot and a template for how you focus on child poverty and see what works and what can be transferred to other communities. Secondly, they must look seriously at the workforce investment plan for the state of West Virginia. West Virginia has the lowest workforce participation rate in the United States of America, 10% below the national average. That's not something new. It's been that way for many years. Only 54% of people in West Virginia participate in the workforce. When you remove out the 7.5% unemployed, you got less than 47% of people actually working. Mm-hmm. And so what we've got to do is focus on job training and employment for jobs that exist, and targeting those people that are the least competitive for those jobs. That's what we really need to do. I've served on the State Workforce Investment Council since it was established under the late Cecil Underwood. And I'm disappointed that we do not have a comprehensive, coherent plan for workforce development in West Virginia that would really lift our poorest people out of poverty by connecting the job training and employment. It needs immediate attention. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, the workforce investment system in West Virginia has been neglected for far too long.
Now, this is the same workforce training program that the governor required drug testing for applicants.
That's correct.
What could the legislature do here? I mean, I understand there's a lot of money going into workforce investment, a lot of federal money.
Not nearly enough.
Okay.
Actually,
and probably less with.
Well, it's been less. When I came on the Workforce Investment Board back in 2000, there was like $44 million from the federal government. Now there's about $12 million that we're actually getting now. We don't get nearly enough money to do what really needs to be done. But I strongly believe that there needs to be money that's allocated, and if necessary, out of the rainy day funds. We got $1 billion plus in these various rainy day funds. It is raining in poor communities. It is raining for poor families. It is raining for poor children. It's raining in our state economically when we have the lowest workforce participation rate in the United States of America. We cannot compete unless we have more people working and with the skills to perform the higher skilled jobs. So what could happen is we get together and let's have a grand bargain. Let's agree between the Senate and the House and the governor that we're going to get some of these funds out of the rainy day fund, and we're going to focus on workforce development in West Virginia. That's what needs to happen.
You'll never get your hands on the rainy day fund. I just know it.
We will remain non-competitive, unable to attract new businesses to the state, unable to retain some of the businesses that are here, and unable to capitalize on the opportunity everyone is talking about associated with Marcellus Shale. We do not have a workforce in the state of West Virginia to be competitive when you have less than 47% of your people that are employed. So if we would have a real economic surge with jobs, we don't even have people seeking employment, Beth.
Yeah.
That's what's troubling. People aren't even seeking employment. We got to bring people into the workforce. One thing that everyone needs to pay attention to, the Annie Casey Foundation just released a report about a month ago. It's about youth and work. In West Virginia, we have 56,000 young people, 16 to 24, that are out of school and disconnected from work. 56,000, and over 20% of them already have children. This is the largest percentage since World War II. And we have the largest percentage of youth, 16 to 24, out of work and out of school in the country. This is a recipe for economic disaster and a growth in our prison population if we don't connect these young people to education and back to employment and job training, and a further drain on our social welfare system.
The legislature is looking at a governor's plan to relieve prison overcrowding. What's your take on that particular piece of legislation and the situation that West Virginia finds itself in terms of moving, they're closing the industrial home for youth, they're turning it into a correctional center. Your thoughts?
I think it's the right thing to do to close the Salem Industrial Home for Youth. It was a maximum security juvenile detention center, looked more like a prison, and I think that the experts who looked at that concluded that it's the right thing to do. I served on the Justice Reinvestment Commission appointed by Governor Tomlin. I commend the governor for bringing in the Justice Center with the support of the House Speaker, the Senate President, and the State Supreme Court Chief. I believe that the bill that is based on the Justice Center recommendations is a good first step in the right direction in trying to reduce recidivism. Those people that are released, keep them from going back into the prison system. But based on the report from the Justice Center themselves, they say that this bill basically will not address the current overcrowding of 1,800 people back in the regional jails. They say it will bend the curve, but 5 years from now, we'll still have 1,800 people backed up in the regional jail system. I do not think that's acceptable. This is an issue I think that needs attention. The legislature, executive, and judicial branch of government has to come together to fix this. This is a major, major problem that if we don't address it, we're going to end up in a situation like California, where the United States Supreme Court comes in and forces a fix, or possibly the Justice Department. I'm hoping that more West Virginians will pay attention to this problem of prison overcrowding, because it is serious, it is severe, and we spend over nearly $250 million every year on prison, jails, and juvenile justice system.
We're going to have to leave it there. Reverend Matthew Watts, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And here's a look at what's coming up in the House on Monday. Up for passage in the House on Monday, Senate Bill 71, having to do with easements and rights of way. Senate Bill 145, amending election complaint procedures to correct a reference to applicable statutes in order to conform the language to pertinent federal code. And Senate Bill 458, to permit PEIA health plans to operate on a calendar rather than fiscal year basis. On second reading on Monday, Senate Bill 80, requiring central office staff at a county board of education who have a valid teaching certificate to substitute teach 3 days every school year. And Senate Bill 435, continuing and expanding the Municipal Home Rule Pilot Program. This has been the Legislature Today, and before we leave you tonight, we have an invitation to pass along to you from the Senate Select Committee on Children in Poverty. Senate President Jeff Kessler and House Speaker Rick Thompson are hosting a screening of a new documentary on poverty called A Place at the Table. The film follows a mother who is struggling to feed her children and two young girls who never know where their next meal is coming from. The screening will be held at the Culture Center in Charleston this Monday at 6 p.m. It's free and open to the public. The screening will be followed by a panel discussion featuring the film's director and an expert on school meals and food assistance programs. That's A Place at the Table at 6 p.m. Monday at the Culture Center in Charleston. I'm Beth Voorhees. We'll be back on Monday to begin the final week of our coverage of the first regular session of the 81st West Virginia Legislature. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.